the only thing prospects know about a business until they do business with that business is the marketing. That's how important it is. Marketing is the first impression, period. And it's the only impression until you do business with them. So it has to be representative of who you are.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the High Level Spotlight Sessions, where we showcase awesome marketers doing awesome marketing. Today, I am joined by Mike Michalowicz. He's a well-known author in the business and entrepreneur space who has been referred to as the top contender for the patron saint of entrepreneurs. That's quite a title, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
Chase, it's a joy to be with you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, that is quite a title. And the remarkable thing is the person who said that was Simon Sinek.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. You know, he and I are, we launched our first books at the same time. I launched one that kind of fizzled called The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. He launched one called Start With Why. And we both were with the same publisher. He's had a tremendous trajectory and it's just been very kind to me over the years. And when he shared that, it's his own quote. He just came to me and said, "Hey, this is for you." It blew my mind. He's such a generous man.
It's a heck of a quote. And, you know, from what I've seen, and I've, been watching a bunch of your content, preparing for this, it makes sense. And I'm excited for what you're going to deliver to our community. We talked a little bit about how we have a lot of young agency entrepreneurs in our community who are just getting started with their agencies, but we also have established agencies that are pivoting to this new model. So it's almost like they're starting a new business in addition to the one that they already have. So I think a lot of what you're going to say is going to resonate. And I know that you have a new book. Your newest book is about sort of standing out. What's the title?
Yeah, it's called Get Different. Check this out. Talking about getting different. Whoops, I didn't position it perfectly, but there it is on my little screen there. Yeah, what I did was I've been researching out why most businesses struggle in the marketing front. Mm-hmm. And this won't be any surprise to marketing agencies. Most businesses don't market. Most small businesses simply depend on client referral. And, and we're braggadocious about it too. It's like, oh, my clients refer me business. That's how I get 90% of my business. That's how I get 100% of my business. But my counterpoint is that's wonderful that they care for you so much and value your service enough to refer you to others. You are also at the whim of those customers being your marketing engine. And that's very precarious. What if that customer goes away, decides they don't like you anymore, just decides to stop marketing on your behalf? You're done. So what we need to do is to be able to control our marketing. Get Different is about positioning yourself accordingly through your marketing efforts, but really about standing out and distinguishing yourself so that you can control your marketing flow, your lead flow.
Now, before we dig into some of the nuggets from the book, I want to point out that, a lot of people write books, they come on, they talk about it, and you're like, yeah, kind of, who are you?
Yeah.
Your website does such a good job of, I don't even know what you're going to say, like what nuggets you're going to drop on. But I wanted to point out some of the subtle details of your website to me that are so different and so entertaining and so smart.
Thank you.
That I really think it's like, I can't wait to hear what this guy has to say because I can see it in your work. So if you don't mind, I'm going to screen share real quick.
Yeah, totally.
And a couple of things that I just absolutely love. Number one, your business is your name, right? And you have a last name that it seems like people tend to mispronounce.
Of course, yeah.
So your logo is literally has this little audio icon. You hit this.
It's pronounced Mike Michalowicz. Well, usually. Click again for some, let's say, alternative pronunciations.
That's so genius. Where'd you did you come up with the idea for that?
I did. And I actually talk about it in the book. I call it the disadvantage advantage. When we look at a brand or something, we have advantages, but we all have disadvantages too. Some significant, some small, and our competition may even pick on it. For me, my last name is so hard to pronounce. It is pronounced Michalowicz, but that's how I pronounce it. It gets bastardized all the time. So instead of fighting it, what I noticed many other authors do with complex last names, they come up with a pen name, Mike Steele, Mike Mitch, or whatever. But I was like, no, I want to leverage that. So that's why I went into this, where it just starts doing all these bastardizations. I make fun of my name, Michalowicz, which is a true nickname I had in high school. So all these nicknames. And what's interesting is it becomes endearing. It leverages a technique called the Pratfall effect. When people see self-deprecation, it actually makes that person more appealing because they're real, it's just being real is what it boils down to. So that's a technique in the pratfall effect where I'm just showing like, yeah, my name kind of sucks. Have fun with it. But the irony is people are learning how to pronounce my wacky last name. So it actually comes back and serves me in that capacity too.
That's so, so the pratfall effect.
Pratfall, yeah, Pratfall.
So that's the official theory behind basically Eminem, right?
Behind Eminem. Yeah. So what they found is that when someone is in celebrity status or an influencer status, like yourself, there's actually a jealousy occurs. Like, oh my God, Chase has his own podcast. His content's great, but he's standing on a podium. So it actually causes a distance between you and your viewership. If you can show intentionally or unintentionally your humble, true self, then they say, oh, Chase is actually a lot like me. And that builds a connection. When we see the celebrities' bloopers, it actually has us more endearing toward them than if we never saw those bloopers in the first place. So that's kind of the idea.
All right, I'm going to show one more. This is in the footer of the site.
No, yeah.
I got down here and I'm Mike's biggest fan. What? And then over here, I can't stand this guy. I'm like, that's hilarious. And so wait, it's a link. I click it and it takes me to an anger management page.
I love that guy screaming too. Like that was the best graphic ever. So here's something funny about that. So that one I've been doing for years now. What we've discovered is we're sending somewhere between 50 to 100 visitors a day to the Anger Management Society or whatever. And they never called me to thank them. Thank me. Like nothing, no word. If they look at their Google Analytics for one day, like, who's this guy, Michalowicz? He keeps on sending people to me. So it's ironic. Yeah.
It's so freaking funny. And then the other one sends you to a page that's like, are you a stalker? Like, go through this checklist.
Right.
Which is hilarious. So, I feel like, again, this reiterates to kind of the same point. You're humbling yourself in a humorous way that's triggering that effect that makes you more appealing and more relatable.
Yeah. And this is key. That is actually who I am. And I have some authors come to me and say, I love your website. May I have your permission to leverage it? I'm like, you can copy it outright, but I want to give you one word of warning. If it's not who you are when you're on a phone call with someone, or you're just out in public, or you're on stage or writing, there's going to be this incongruency. And that actually is the biggest turnoff for people. So when people read my books or they meet me in person or see a podcast, like, oh my God, like, dude, you are the same guy everywhere. And that congruency, I'm going to call it the congruency effect. I'm making that up though. But that congruency is really important because that's where trust is built. So be self-deprecating, but be honest about it,
And is that, how does that translate to businesses, right? Like, take us further. What are some of the nuggets from your book of sort of how to take these kind of things and apply it to an actual business?
Okay. So just to give a little context, I've been researching marketing intensely for about 7 years now and documenting it. I've been doing it for my own businesses, but really intensely documenting it. And I found that you can boil down effective marketing to 3 elements. And sadly, a lot of businesses miss out on one or multiple, and therefore the marketing crumbles. Step 1 is to differentiate. We have to stand out and be unique in our marketing. And the fact is, and I encourage marketing agencies to use this, the only thing prospects know about a business until they do business with that business is the marketing. That's how important it is. Marketing is the first impression, period. And it's the only impression until you do business with them. So it has to be representative of who you are, but it also has to be different. So there's this white noise going on in all industries. It's the best practices of the industry. This is how we market. If you're an info marketer, you guys send out an email that starts off with, hey, friend. Now, here's the thing. Hey, friend, the first email was very effective for the first person who did it because it was different. But the second person who did hey, friend, we were all like, hold on, the first hey, friend wasn't a real friend anyway. This isn't a friendly friend. This is an enemy friend. Then by the time we get the third hey, friend, we're what's called habituated. We're expecting this to be of no value, so we disregard it. And that has mollified the effectiveness of that marketing every day forward. Our job as business owners and as marketers is look at how our industry is being marketed to and do something that is different. If everyone's doing email, why not try doing a direct mail campaign or billboards or run Facebook ads? If everyone's doing Facebook ads, why not do your Facebook ads in a way that no one else has done it and change things up? That's the key.
That's a good point. Now that takes a lot of, it can be kind of scary, right? Because when you're playing with clients' money,
Yeah.
it's very tempting to just do what everybody seems to think works, right? Everybody's running the same style of ads. We've been getting pretty good results with them. But I think if you can find something truly unique, it's the potential to spike the needle is so much greater than just kind of going with the grain, right?
Totally. And, and we now with the way social media is, we see habituation in our own ads very quickly. So if you run ads, you may see that they work and all of a sudden, like, it's not working much. That's because the consumer is like, oh, I know what this is. So there's this revolving, like, we got to constantly change ads, which is, it's a race to the bottom. The one thing that always works is different. And there's a mechanism in our minds why it works. It's a self-preservation mechanism. When something unexpected presents itself, we have to evaluate, is that a threat or opportunity? We have to pay attention to it. It's wired into us. Like if we were outside right now talking and something squiggles in the grass, we're going to jump back because it could be a threat. Snake is about to bite us. It could be innocuous. Someone turned the hose on. So we have to evaluate until we know, are we safe? And sometimes it's an opportunity. If someone just throw down a roll of cash that rolled by us, well, that's something maybe I want to grab. So in our marketing, first be different to get the attention. The one caveat is you get about 1/10 of a second of attention before, at a subconscious level, the consumer says, is this a value or not? They start value judging within 1/10 of a second, which is faster than a blink. So immediately you have to go to the next stage, which is attract. Attract is where we have a compelling offer, something that satisfies a need, something that just entertains, something that evokes curiosity, something that is of service in some capacity and furthers the desire to be engaged. That's the attract phase. And the last one I find is direct. Once you have that, you need to tell the customer what to do next. The key here is it needs to be reasonable. You're looking for a car. I'm like, hey, Chase, welcome to my car lot. Give me $100,000. We're going to find a dream car. You'd be like, F you, pal. 100,000, you kidding? But if I did say, hey, Chase, would you mind giving me your cell number? I can text you pictures of our inventory to see if something matches up with your desire. That is a much more reasonable ask. The key here is be reasonable to the customer so that they feel safe, but also matriculate or move it along as quickly as possible to get to the transaction you want, which would, in my case, be selling a car.
That's pretty interesting. I really like what you said about how different psychologically. I've had a couple of conversations lately with where people have dropped sort of that psychological nugget where it's like your system is wired where you have no choice but to take a second and stare at something or figure something out. And I feel like that's so powerful if you can start to, I don't want to sound like evil here, but manipulate that innate reaction.
Yeah. And I would just say persuade. And I know you're not trying to be evil. And this is the key differentiator between persuasion and manipulation. Persuasion is where you move someone from point A to point B, and point B is in their best interest. They just don't know how to navigate there. Manipulation is moving from point A to point C, where C is not in their best interest, but it's in your best interest. Now you're manipulating. So I believe, and I truly believe this, that marketing is ultimately the ultimate form of kindness. Because if I believe my business is superior in its offering, if I really believe in what I do and that I'm better than my competition in some capacity or all capacities, then it's my responsibility to get out there and get noticed. Because if my customers buy from my competitor and never notice me, they're going to suffer. So it's their problem, but it's my fault for not getting noticed. So if you want to be kind, and if you believe in what you do, marketing is the ultimate form of kindness.
Let me ask you a question. If somebody's listening to this and they're like, I love it, it makes total sense, but I'm not a really super creative person. How do you have advice for people on how to start thinking about how to be different?
Totally. Go to industries outside your industry and do some R&D. And that stands for rip off and duplicate. Just rip off and duplicate. So what we want to do is, if we look inside our industry, you start to get this incestuous kind of best practices. We all of us should do a mailer campaign or something like that. But if you look outside your industry, you're going to discover different ideas. I'll give you an example. I market books. I meet with other authors. Every author says you have to have a book launch party, get other people to email about your book, and pray. That's basically the three things. And so I went to a conference for cleaners. I was a speaker there, so I also sat in the audience and listened for the day. And one speaker came up and said, if you make a cleaning product and you have it on the shelf, about 10 to 15% of customers, when they see your product, will actually turn it and look at the label and evaluate it. If you have an 800 number on the back saying pre-recorded message about a product, about 50% of them will actually use their cell phone to call that number. And you'll close about 30% of the people that call or something like that because they will be persuaded by your message. Have an 800 number on the back of your cleaning product. Well, I put an 800 number on the back of my book. At the time, it was called The Pumpkin Plan, my second book. And sure enough, I had a boost of about 5% in sales, week in, week out. The books were predominantly selling in Barnes and Nobles and so forth, where it was on shelves. And sure enough, it gave it a booster shot. So if you don't know how to be innovative, you're not out of the norm. That's common for many of us. But the idea is already out there. Just go outside your industry and start parlaying their ideas into your business.
Wow, that's really smart advice. And I can totally see that. Just start poking around and R&Ding. Mike, I know that, this is your latest book.
Yeah.
I would love to actually talk about the theme of your previous book as well, real quick, if we could, because I think that pyramid could really help people out who are kind of stuck.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
You could give us like a quick breakdown of that theory of the pyramid that you came up with?
Yeah. So what I try to tackle in my prior book, it's called Fix This Next. So you should see on the screen what's called the business hierarchy of needs right now. And let me tell you how this was conceived. I started asking entrepreneurs, what's the biggest problem you have? And I realized they really didn't know. My conclusion was the biggest problem entrepreneurs face is knowing what their biggest problem is. Most people said, I have a problem. I simply need to sell my way out of it. And that wasn't necessarily the case. So in this pyramid, foundationally, sales is the source of income. It brings about cash flow to your business. And without cash, which is the lifeblood of business, you have no business. So you need to bring in sales. But this is where most businesses left off. They said, well, just sell more and I'll be saved. And that's not true. The next necessary component for a business, its needs, are profitability. Profit brings stability to an organization, runway. And sadly, most businesses don't get there. Most businesses just try to sell more and more, and they're still living check by check. They have more stress on their shoulders. Sales actually brings about stress. The more you sell, the more obligation you have to deliver on that. So it's actually more stress on your organization.
Right.
You need to balance that with profit. But once you have satisfactory profit, you're not living in day to day. Now you have some runway. Then we start focusing on the need for efficiencies throughout your organization. No dependency on the owner to do the work. No dependency on any linchpin employees. Redundancy, automation, technology, like what you've developed, is extraordinary for efficiency. Once that is being addressed, then the next level above that is impact. Impact is where we're creating transformational experiences for clients, not transactional experiences. So they're not buying something, it is transforming their business or their lives forever. And it's not the one-off. That's where you systemically transform people. My favorite example is Harley Davidson. You buy a Harley, you can get a bike anywhere. There's thousands of manufacturers. You buy a Harley, you are now part of the family. You're a weekend warrior. You're putting the company logo on your shoulder as a tattoo. I mean, that's transformational.
When you drive by other people on motorcycles where they do like the peace sign down low.
Yeah, that's part of the family. That's a transformational experience. The highest level that a business can deliver at is at the legacy level. This is where we create permanence. This is where your business, it's a realization for many people, is your business was never about the business. It's about the service of others. And it is more important than you, the owner itself. It needs to live on into perpetuity because it's of great service. Mm-hmm. The point of this pyramid is you don't climb it like a ladder and try to wave to the top. We simply ask, where is the next need presenting itself? When COVID hit, Amazon arguably was working on impact and legacy. They were creating automated driving vehicles and automated autonomy, I think it was, vehicles. Yeah. COVID hits, they changed their whole selling mechanism to go to essential products, if you remember. They changed the whole model. They went back to the sales level because they had a crack in their foundation. They addressed it immediately, and Amazon had a banner year during the COVID crisis. So in our own businesses, we use this pyramid to say, what does the business need next? And we adjust levels accordingly, fix it, and then we address the next level, just like maintaining a building. If there's a crack in the foundation, fix it. Otherwise, you can start building up.
Yeah, I want to read that one because I love the bottom two layers and the distinction that you made there. And I'm interested in fleshing that out further. But from what I got from it, and the example I saw that you give in a talk somewhere was basically, a lot of people, like you said, they think that their problem is, I just need more sales.
Yeah.
And really, you're talking about a margin problem. And in my mind, I can relate to that because if you go out with a margin problem, unknowing it, it's very hard to get out of that loop. because you've sold at a terrible margin. So you have to fulfill, like you said, you have these obligations that you have to fulfill. But without margin, you don't have enough time to get outside of that fulfillment and grow the business, right? And so I think it's really interesting to differentiate those two levels and understand if one of those is broken, how you go about getting yourself out of that sort of loop.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. You always go back down to the foundation. So when there's a problem, we first ask ourselves at the base level, do I not have enough leads coming in? Now, at every level in the Fix This Next business hierarchy of needs, there's 5 what I call core needs. So collectively, there's actually 25 elements that's common throughout all business, the DNA of business, if you will. When we go back to the base and say, is this being satisfactorily served? And is it adequate for the level above it? And the second, it's not satisfactory or it's not adequate for the next level up, now you've hit the threshold of what we need to address. So when it comes to a margins issue, when you really analyze your sales, you may be saying, well, we do bring in, 2 new clients every month or whatever, and that should be adequate sales. How come it's not converting? Oh, we're not charging these folks enough, or we have inefficiencies. And then you start working on whatever presents itself.
I think it's so important, especially for a lot of younger, again, agency entrepreneurs in our community, because especially with a product like ours, it's white label. There's this extra pressure of like, well, what I'm sort of selling the same thing as they are. What happens if people find out? And we're like, no, it's a platform. Like what you put into it is what makes a differentiation. But there's this tendency to want to race to the bottom of price.
Oh my God, it's the worst. Do not do it. I know.
And so then if you understand what we're talking about here and you're seeing somebody doing that, you can more confidently not follow them to the bottom because you know that they're going to get stuck in that loop of having this issue of profitability, right?
Oh, it'll wipe their business out. But there's a local retailer, this is many years back, that sold iPhones. And he said, listen, I sell an iPhone for $6.99, whatever the number is. And so is everyone else because it's mandated by Apple. There's nothing I can do for my margins. I said, well, that's bullshit. He's like, what do you mean? I said, what if we did packaging? What if, do you have tax and tips you have around the iPhone? He's like, yeah, you can get more battery life by doing this. You get like 50 things. Like, let's make a DVD. This is when DVDs still existed, of you explaining all these tips and demonstrating it, and now sell it as a package. So you could buy a standard iPhone for $6.99, or you could buy an iPhone with the 100 top hacks for, I think it was like $7.35. These DVDs cost $1 to print. So he's recorded it once. He was making an extra $36 or $37 every time there was a sale. And that was a game changer for him on margin. So you can repackage even if you're coming from a common base like the iPhone.
I think that's great. And hopefully that's sunk in, and it's a good analogy for our world in that, with our SaaS mode product, we actually don't let you go below a certain price point. But when I have the conversations and I'm like, guys, we have people in our community selling it for thousands of dollars a month. They can't even fathom that, but it's because they've done exactly what you've done. They've created a suite of IP that gets embedded in their snapshot, right? So it's all scalable, but it's the content, it's their expertise, it's the things that they put into the snapshot. It's all of that collectively that becomes this whole other thing compared to just the platform. And so that's a message that I really appreciate the analogy, because we really want more people to wrap their heads around this, that it's very easy to differentiate yourself when you kind of get creative and fall back on, well, what is your expertise? What do you, like the guy, he had 50 tips that he rattled off the top of his head. Most marketers can do the same type of thing. And so it's about sitting down, punching that all out, putting it into the package. And now you feel hopefully much more confident raising your prices so that you have margin so that your business can succeed.
Exactly. Yeah. People pay for your expertise. Just one quick story, because I know we got to start wrapping things up.
Sure.
My father, I was having a plumbing problem. It was just leaking, could not get it fixed. Called a plumber and said, plumber said, I can fix it. It's going to be, he didn't even come out and say, it's going to be $500, but I know exactly what's going on and I can fix it. Plumber comes out, he goes to this one pipe, does a couple of twists, and sure enough, it permanently fixed the leak. And he goes, $500. My dad's like, that's a ripoff. It only took you 2 minutes. The guy said, oh, please understand, you didn't pay me for the 2 minutes of doing that. You paid me for the 25 years of experiencing this and figuring out exactly how to fix it instantly. My dad's like, oh, here's a check. Thank you. We're not paying for the implementation. We're paying for your knowledge and ability to do that implementation.
Absolutely. I love it. It's like that Picasso story where he sells the lady a drawing on a napkin and she's mad.
Oh,
'Cause he's
yeah.
thousands of dollars, and it took you 5 minutes. He said, no, it took me 30 years to learn how to draw
To figure
that.
that out. Yeah, exactly. He probably stole that from Picasso, actually. You know.
Probably. Well, Mike, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate your time. Where can people find your books?
This has been a joy. The place to go to is gogetdifferent.com. That's the starting point for Get Different. Plus, you'll discover the other books there. But if you go to gogetdifferent.com, you can get the book, which would be wonderful. But I encourage you to get the free resources. I wrote down 100 marketing techniques that cost nothing that you can deploy in your business, or actually have your clients even use, that I think you'll find highly innovative, no cost, and interesting way to get started with some cool experiments.
Nice. I love it. All right. We'll make sure to get the link down below so everybody can just click and head over there. I'm sure you're going to find some other fun stuff on the site. I feel like there's Easter eggs all over the place.
Yeah, no, there's more. Yeah.
Again, going to trigger your creativeness as well. But again, Mike, thanks for coming on to chat with us.
Chase, thank you so much.
Thanks everybody for watching. We will see you in the next one.